Do you have a favorite kind of fallen pinecone?
So that film Last Orders that I did with David Heyman and Adrian Dunbar, which I produced, we asked the two actors to improvise because they felt that the script was a bit tight. And do you know David Heyman, Scottish actor, and do you know Adrian Dunbar from Northern Ireland?
Yes.
So they said, can we just improvise? And there's this moment in the film where David says to Adrian, because he's an angel, David plays his angel, who's coming to see this guy. And he says, you talk about love, life, beauty, the falling pine cone. And he improvised that. And it's stuck with me ever since. I just thought it's like it's a euphemism for
just life and everything in it.
Life and everything in it. The falling pine cone.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pop. I'm Cricket.
I'm Wombat, and if you haven't figured it out, we have a guest.
I'm not even going to bother explaining who this man is because you will probably know his voice in some way, shape, or form. Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible Rupert Degas.
Hello, so great to be here. It's fantastic. I love you guys. You're so great.
One of the notes I've got, I wanted to ask you about. It's called you played essentially Trump.
Oh yeah,
La Madre Buena.
La Madre Buena.
How did that come about, and what was that like?
My friend Sarah Clift, who wrote and directed it, the short film, she used to work for an advertising agency in London, and she called me and said, "Do you want to do this short?" I said, "Yes, of course."
So I just got to play Donald for like a few hours. It was fantastic. It was great, but. It was the best ever, the best film. It's a great film. And basically they make a piñata out of Donald Trump and all the little Mexican kids bash it. And they all cheer because this huge piñata looks like Trump. And it's basically all the Mexican kids hitting Trump. Have you seen it? It's a cute little film.
We'll have to go down and find it.
It's great.
Were you worried about the reception to playing Trump at all? Was that a thing?
Oh God, no. This is the shame since he hasn't been president. There's been,
he's no longer in the cultural zeitgeist.
No, I mean, there's apart from recently when
my NFTs, they're the best NFTs.
Oh my
dinner
God,
with me.
Hilarious.
It's going to be a great dinner.
but it's when you can have someone who's that impersonatable, I think, is that a word?
It is now.
It is now.
There are many words that aren't words in this podcast.
A gift, like Tony Blair. It was, somebody who talks, like that. It's just a gift, King Charles. But when you got Biden, he's pretty hard to do. Albanese's really hard to do. He's got that sort of thing, that sibilant S going on. But, ScoMo was kind of like that vocal fry thing, and you get a voice and you go, they're satirizable.
Yeah.
My English is terrible.
Mine too.
There's an irony in this.
Yes. Exactly. No, so I love it. So no, I have no problems with impersonating people because I think if you're in the public eye,
absolutely,
and especially if you're a politician who are just the scum of the earth, take.
Was that Churchill?
No, just scummy. But I just think absolutely, they're fair game.
Your vocal impressions. When did that begin? Because we all have this creative spark that leads us down the road of either being a voice actor or anything. And you've been described to have, your vocal elasticity is the same way that Jim Carrey is able to just mold his face.
Yes.
I've seen that quote on your website and it's perfect.
Yes, I love that
Where
quote.
did it all start?
It started, I guess, with a show called Three of a Kind. On the BBC with Lenny Henry, Tracy Ullman, and David Copperfield. It was a sketch show, and the sketches were relatively clean, so it was good for children. And I was sort of 11 or 12 when I was watching that, and I used to put the cassette recorder in front of the television, and I'd press play and record on the little cassette player, and I'd learn the sketches. And Tracy Ullman, I think, was the first voice. The first sort of character actor that I became aware of as a child, that I went, that's what I want to do. Because her ability with playing characters was phenomenal. Yes, in the 70s, I used to watch Mike Yarwood, who was an impressionist, and then later on, the Rory Bremners and the Alistair McGowans, etc. But for me, I think it was Three of a Kind, and then that roundabout was the same time as The Young Ones and Blackadder.
Yes.
So
two incredible shows.
Yeah. I knew all the scripts of Blackadder and The Young Ones, and it was all the voices. So, of course, I was impersonating all of those voices. But then, of course, I was a huge Star Wars nut. So I I probably still know the entire script of Star Wars A New Hope. And one of my first impressions was Obi-Wan.
Alec Guinness.
Kenobi, of course, in those days when it was these aren't
like
the
he's
droids
here.
you're looking for.
Right?
You don't need to see his identification. Sort of Mos Eisley spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
And it was that kind of, so I was doing that. And then with Empire Strikes Back, it was then Yoda. And you'd be a, 11-year-old kid going, and it was fun getting a glass and doing Darth Vader. And I thought, I'm good at this. I quite like this. This is fun. I'm amusing myself. Yeah. So that's
Was
where
it
it all
like at
started,
school
was as a kid.
and in the playground, you'd just be like the one everyone would flock to just get amusement? So would they like be jabbing characters at you?
Close. I was actually, I was kind of like a little overweight kid. I was kind of like the short, fat kid at school. So I was picked on. No, I was bullied.
So you needed to be funny.
I, like a lot of comics and a lot of impressionists,
Cover your
will
pain
tell
with humor.
You cover your pain with humor and you stop. I stopped the bullying by making the bullies laugh, because if you could make them laugh, you suddenly
Distract them?
Yeah. Stephen Fry said something amazing in his book, Moab is My Washpot, because he was bullied at school as well. And his way to stop being bullied was to say, I'm getting an erection. And that would stop the bullies. But it disarmed them.
It did, clearly.
It disarmed them. Oh, it's disgusting. And the thing is, with bullies, you've got to disarm them with whatever weapons you have, whatever armor you have. And for me, it was doing voices. And normally it was the teachers. If I impersonated the teachers, and I impersonated all the teachers at school, suddenly it was like, oh, now I'm cool.
You're attacking authority.
I'm attacking authority. So they're not going to
yeah.
pick on me because
You're not
I'm
going to be a snitch or anything
shorter
like
than
that.
them. Yeah, because I'm not a jock or whatever. And so I just carried on like that, and I've been doing it ever since. But what happens is now as a sort of professional actor, voice actor, audiobook narrator, what have you, all those voices are in this kind of vault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there is sort of in a bag. And I think as an actor, what you do is you have to observe and you just soak up without even realizing. It's not like you do it on purpose, but you've got to be aware that everybody you meet, you are kind of getting a bit of their essence and you're storing it somewhere for later use.
For when you need it.
Yeah.
For when you need it, because you never know. I've just narrated a book that it is set in a school and there are teachers. So I pulled out.
So some of your old teachers made an appearance.
They did, absolutely. Mixed up with a few teachers from Harry Potter and a few, I always throw in Alan Rickman because Snape's always a good one. And it's just, so it's from being a child and hearing those voices and copying those sketches and just learning them over and over again was kind of what got me into it.
Yeah.
And now I still use those voices. I try and bring Obi-Wan Kenobi into most audiobooks as well.
You're not a, you don't actually read much fiction on account of the amount of audiobooks you do, is that right?
Any fiction.
Ever?
Ever.
Now, was that something that happened before you started doing audiobooks, or has it always just been?
I've liked my stories to come from film. I'm a very film and TV is my visual medium. I like my stories to be told to me in that medium, and I think with long form TV shows starting back with sort of, I guess Lost was I think the first one that was just like it wasn't episodic and everyone went, oh, and now of course that's now TV. I've always liked nonfiction, but the audiobooks thing, because I narrate about 15 or 20 audiobooks a year and 99% of them are fiction, I feel like I'm getting my fill.
Yeah,
of course.
That's enough for the year.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like it's just considered work.
It's work, but also I've realized now that I really like crime. I really like crime thrillers because I just really get into stories about, I want to know who the murderer was and I like the twists and everything. So I really like that genre of audiobook because it's a page turner.
For you, quite literally.
For me.
Yeah. Do you like find you're going through it and you're speeding up the recording trying to find out who it is?
Sometimes. Sometimes I find myself, because I don't read the books first. I don't prep them. I know, very bad because, apparently you've got to prep them. But I feel like I don't have to. because I speak to the authors normally and I say, look, could you give me
A rundown.
a rundown? Like I was doing one last week and like 3 pages into a chapter and I gave this character a voice. I just gave this character a Scottish accent because I went, fucking, I don't know what accent this character should have, so I just did Scottish. And then 4 pages in, it turned out that the character was Welsh. It said, do you know where I'm from? She says. And I'm going, do you know where I'm from? No, I'm from Wales. Shit. So I stopped recording, go back 3 pages, start again. And that's fine. But that's quicker than reading the whole bloody book to find out, you know what I mean? Because I like to know what happened. I feel that if I kind of know what's coming, I might inform that. Yeah. I know it's a bit of a lame excuse, but I think I might inform it, and I do want to speed up.
You want it fresh.
I want it fresh. It's like this old saying, paralysis through analysis, and you can overthink something. And I think I'm always best on the first take, and then it's downhill after that.
But as well as that, there's this kind of certain joy that comes to discovering parts of the story, because if you've been someone that has just decided to prep, you've gone through and you're like, oh, this story is absolute shit.
Yeah.
And then you have to go back and sit in front of a mic. You're just like, fuck!
Yeah. And most of the things, not most, but a lot of books I narrate, I'm just like, oh God, they're not paying me enough because it was awful. And I can't do this, but I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get through to the end. It's not
because you've only got to do it once, right?
But I've only got to do it once, yeah.
There's 2 that I want to touch on.
Yes.
Now, I first actually stumbled across you through The Name of the Wind.
Oh, yes.
Which, fair choice. And you obviously sat down with Patrick Rothfuss to...
No.
Okay, and this explains a lot, because you go and listen to the American take where Patrick is actually narrating it himself, and Ali and I were listening to it in the first time, and then we go and listen to Patrick, and we're like, Patrick's pronouncing them wrong.
No, he didn't narrate the American versions.
No, so sorry, not the American versions.
He narrated silent regard of things, right?
Silent regard.
Yeah.
And you're just like, he's pronouncing everything wrong.
Yeah. So I've struggled. So the in America, only in America, it's geo-locked on Audible. If you want to listen to Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear, there's another narrator doing them, a brilliant guy called Nick Podell. He's American and he's lovely and he does a lot of fantasy book and he's great. Rest of world is me. Yeah. So, I'm Canada, South Africa, Australia, UK, etc. Yeah. And because they're geo-locked, there's a lot of real diehard KingKiller Chronicle fans that want to listen to both versions. But they can't, in America, they can't get my versions and you can't get Nick's versions outside.
It's an excellent time for us to bring up a VPN if anyone would like to sponsor us.
Yes.
This podcast is not sponsored by NordVPN.
No. Yes.
Not yet.
Masterworks, no. So what happened is that I auditioned. I had to send Pat a test and he was very happy and confirmed me with the publishers. And then I narrated the books. With wonderful producer in London, in England, called Peter Ridney, lives in Cheltenham, and it was fantastic. And then when I didn't know at the time that it had already been recorded by Nick and it was out in America. I thought, I'm going to worldwide, and then people started. I then looked it up, and I looked it up on the American Audible, and it wasn't there. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I called up the publishers, Orion, and they said, yeah, we're the UK publishers and rest of world publishers. In America, it's published by a different publishing company. I said, okay. So then started to get emails from people, from fans, saying, why did you pronounce this wrong? I'm like, what? What do you mean, why did I pronounce it wrong? I just pronounced it in a way that
it was written.
It was written.
And so going onto some Reddits and subreddits, you find a lot of fans go, Nick Podell worked with Pat Rothfuss to get all the character names right? Rupert's getting them all wrong. And I'm going, yeah, but he's an American, and Americans say things differently.
Exactly.
From British accent. So
did you actually get on and respond to anyone on Reddit?
No, I'm not. No, I don't know. No, I don't want to respond.
That's a dangerous.
You don't want the whole fandom to know your username?
Yeah, I'm not even on Reddit. I don't even have a username. Literally, I'm there as a sort of
an anonymous guest.
Anonymous observer going, what are they saying about me? Because I care what the fans think, and there's a real kind of split out there of, I like Nick's version, I like Rupert's version, I like Nick's version. And it's really weird because you've got two versions to choose from, but they're geolocked, so nobody can actually listen to both. I get emails every week saying, how can I get hold of your version of Name of the Wind? I'm like, I don't know, get a VPN, not a VPN, get a VPN or open some audible.co.uk or .com.au account or buy the CDs on eBay, which you can, and then I get people going, somebody said I've been trying to find this for 3 years. I found it for $25. And I'm like, great.
That's a good deal.
I want it for free. I'm like, why does everybody want everything for free?
Why do they
How do you
think you're
we
gonna have it?
earn a bloody living? I'm not going to get paid if you don't fucking pay for the audiobook. So I can be, where can I get your book for nothing? So I feel the way I pronounce things was the way that Peter Rinne and I felt it was correct to pronounce. I mean, the classic one is you get people going, he used totally the wrong voice from the one that was in my head when I read it. I'm like,
Oh my God.
wow, sorry, I should consult everybody because the voice that I read it with my head was, and I just think it's the funniest, thing, ruined it for me. I didn't hear it like that. I'm like,
Good for you.
I had one review for.
Go back and try it again.
I did Gormenghast did the Mervyn Peake trilogy, Did you ever listen to the...
I actually haven't.
Have you heard of Mervyn Peake, a British author?
yeah,
Did the Gormenghast. It was very sort of fantasy stuff. And I had this one guy, the review was, this is on Audible, he said, welcome to the Ministry of Silly Voices. He said, well, fun, okay, and he said, it really is American. He goes, it really annoys me when voice actors act. First sentence. And it was like, why does he whisper when the character whispers or shouts when the character shouts? Just read the story. I'm like, oh my God. Well, if you want a GPS, if you want sat-nav reading your book, there's plenty that do. But if you
Google to voice. Copy paste the book.
I perform it. I perform it like a radio play. And if that's not what you want, don't listen to my audiobooks because I'll give you a full cast. And if that's not what you want, don't criticize it because that's what I do.
Because you did a full cast. You did basically a full cast for the Golden Compass as well.
The Golden Compass was actually a full cast.
That's right. It was you.
And I played Panther Lyman. And that was great.
That would have been a very different experience. Were you all just kind of doing your parts or were you all in together?
All in together.
Oh my God.
With Philip Pullman was sitting at a desk on a U87 with the headphones on. And he'd never narrated anything before. And he's a lovely man, gorgeous man. And he's got this lovely voice. And he'd sort of read, Lyra came into Oxford, and he'd read the narration in this beautiful voice, which had this softness to it. And then we'd be there, the cast, sort of on 3 or 4 mics with scripts like we were doing BBC radio drama. And then, I'd be next to Lyra and, hey, Pan. I'd go, what's happening, Lyra? And we'd do as Lyra said. And we'd do it with all and we'd do it all together. And it won tons of, that might be one of the ones who won awards. We won loads of awards. I think we won an Audie or 3 Audies or something. And it was great. It was really, really, really good fun. And then we did Amber Spyglass and Subtle Knife. And that was, no one does it like that anymore. That had a budget. Warner Brothers put the money into that. Not Warner Brothers, Time Warner.
Time Warner.
Yeah. They put I think it was Time Warner.
Warner Music or whatever.
Might be right. Yeah, I can't remember.
As we've had this discussion before, you're like,
my epitaph.
It's coming like it's just being pulled out of your mind palace. And like, oh yes, it's kind of.
Yeah, he couldn't remember that he died. He can't remember. God, no. What a memory. It's terrible. Some big thing, big corporate paid for it, so it had a good budget. And it you can tell because it's got music stings and it's got effects on it. And then when the film came out, we all went to see the movie, and a few of us went to see it. We were just sitting there going, "This is shit. Ours is much better."
Because we go back to those impressions. But I recently finished Metro 2033.
Oh,
how?
Oh my God!
Have you ever?
Listening to it or reading
listening to it.
Right,
I was so enthralled by it. Just the fact that you had to keep Russian accents all the way through. How in the ever-loving shit?
I don't know. But what I was really surprised was when they said there was 2034 and 2035 as well. There were 3 books and they got longer and longer. And, I'm worried about Doors of Stone because I think Pat might
that's your 15 years down the line. Am I going to remember that?
6-hour book. Here's a 2,500 page book.
Jesus.
I think, it was a big book. And it was all, for anybody who doesn't know, it's all set on the Moscow underground. And again, Peter Rinne produced that first one for me, the same guy that did Name of the Wind, and whose father was Russian. So he helped me with all the Russian pronunciations of all the tube stations, the metro stations.
Because they were flawless. Oh.
It was great. Verdika, Sverskaya. And I just narrated Russian Roulette by Anthony Horowitz. So the sort of...
Oh, wow, okay.
You know, the...
what was it? It was the
kid, Alex Rider.
Alex Rider.
And it's about Yasin, who's the Scorpia assassin. He's kind of like, Spectre. And it's all his life story. And oh man, all Russian, everybody's Russian. That was the book with the Welsh thing, actually. That was the book. Yeah, he goes to Venice and meets a woman called something, and I can't remember with the German sounding name like Bauman, and she's in Venice, and I'm going, I don't know what accent I can give this woman. So that's why I didn't give her a Scottish accent. I gave her kind of a German, Italian, sort of European accent, because I thought Italian it'll cover it. So it's a sort of, accent, a bit German with a little bit of Italian mixed. So you don't quite know what part of Europe are you from, kind of generic. And then it was like, I am from Wales. And that's what I went,
couldn't be farther from the truth.
Couldn't be further from the truth. But Metro was crazy, because once you have to do an accent, like a Russian accent, you go, oh, now I've got to do 30 characters, all with different Russian accents. And I've only got one Russian voice. They go, so you have the deep one, then you have the light one, then you have the one with the hairs more like this, then one more. But eventually they're all just going to sound the same. Whereas if in the UK, if they're all English,
you can at least get away with it.
You go Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, London, Bristol, whatever. But in Russia, you go, oh shit. So
I remember there's just one that's like, Alton, would you like some tea? It just sounded like it was almost like a Russian golem.
Russian golem. Well, yeah, because you've got, I don't know. But again, because I don't read them first, I don't know who's a main role or who's a walk-on. So I go, oh, here's a character, and they got one line. They never appear again. And then I go, oh, this is just a walk-on, and he's the lead. I'm like, shit. But you kind of, you find it and you develop it, and hopefully the listener kind of goes with me on the journey of discovery, as opposed to I've decided on this character voice from the first page. Character voices can change throughout a book. They can alter a little bit. That's
a relief. As someone who's doing his first one, I'm like, oh God.
Are you doing your first one? I
say first long one before,
fabulous.
And you're just like, oh God. Because Australian accents, like, it's very hard to distinguish. I've always thought, like, how am I going to do this? And I've done that whole process of the raspy one, and I've gone, now I'm going to have to go make it an international lot.
Yeah. Or what you can do with Australia, you can make sort of some of the characters a bit more ochre, a bit more country. You can make some a bit more sort of, Melbourne private school. You can make some, a bit nasal. You can make some a bit kind of, and just kind of
subtle differences
so that, like if I have sort of an older Australian in a book, it'll sort of end up sounding a little bit like Rupert Murdoch or something. One goes sort of so much in that direction, whereas, talking about Jerry Hall and everything, but they'll be sort of there. I'll go, okay, that, that would be a sort of an aspirational sort of, older gentleman. But then you go get your guy, you're sort of like, mate, and you just kind of
probably run into a few of those in Bondi, haven't you?
Yeah, Bondi, mate. Yeah, nah, I don't know. I don't think I've been to Bondi. No, I have. I try and avoid it. But yeah, so good luck with that. It's fantastic. It's hard. It's hard work narrating a book. It's the concentrating. I
mean, that's always been Cricket's downfall. Extended concentration.
Well, yes. Why did you not call yourself rugby? Is that because cricket's long and?
Hang on, I need a quick swing.
Or is it cricket as in the? Are you doing that live for real? Get the fuck.
That's my
really
highlight of my
good.
year, folks.
Mate, that is so good.
So the way you have to do it is kind of whistle through your teeth.
I can't whistle, so that's fucked.
Oh, are you serious?
You're out.
There you go. Yeah. And then basically you just kind of roll your eyes, and then.
That's really good. Have you seen Rob Brydon's Man in a Small Box?
Oh, that is a skill.
I don't know how he does that. I come to it. It's amazing.
But the mouth barely moves, then all of a sudden you're just like hearing this voice from under your ass, and you're like.
One of the reasons I have a beard is because it's a bit short today, but.
If you bring it down here, you can make it sort of sound like Droopy the dog, and you sort of get your jowls kind of open, like just like that.
But the other thing you can do is if you bring it out here,
and then you sort of sound a bit like Stephen Hawking, because there. And then if you put a little thing with your finger in your thing, it can sound like a computer, because you're sounding like you are not really alive.
And so you just kind of it's
That is insane.
the shit we work out that we do with our voices, right?
Were you musically inclined as a kid?
Yes, I play piano.
You still play?
Yeah, and I sing songs from the musicals. Yes,
Like, okay.
love me
Do you
Rocky
know
Horror
of,
Show and me Les Miserables.
Have you heard of the group Dusty Esky?
Dusty Esky.
Dusty Esky. It is an Australian
No.
group up in like the northern,
No.
it's in Melbourne. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And basically, they're just like an Australian men's choir who do like Russian folk songs, and they became so popular that eventually they
Wow.
were in like early 2020. They were actually going to go over to Moscow and sing for the government, but then
Wow.
COVID hit.
But then a good band
And
for being Western propaganda.
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, so it's just like that.
Dusty Esky. I'm gonna look them up.
Yeah, so
My friend Lewis McLeod, who you might have you heard of Lewis McLeod? He played Sebulba in The Phantom Menace.
oh, okay.
Great friend of mine is oh my god, the things he can do with his voice. Not only is his trump amazing, but he does all the effects from Star Wars. He does TIE fighters.
Really?
I mean, he oh man, you should get Lewis on. I mean, he lives in London, but my god,
Open
I'm
invitation.
down for a Zoom.
you do a Zoom with him. He's phenomenal. The stuff he can do with his voice. He's like so. He as a kid, because I asked him what was the thing with you, and he said Michael Winslow, Police Academy. So he was just like, I'm going to do that. He's a Scottish guy from Glasgow. He's like, right, I'm going to be like Michael Winslow. That's how he talks. Don't you, Lewis? You do. I know you do. And he's like, he'd be like, and what he can do with his mouth, it has us in stitches. And we all entertain each other. Our group of little VO coterie in London, there's 3 or 4 of us. We just go out and have a few drinks and we just make each other laugh doing voices and then Lewis does the sound effects and it's just stonking.
Is there a thing where like you will do that while recording? Because I know on stage productions there is very much been some actors a thing of I'm going to make you laugh live on stage. Do you get that with recording?
Yeah, but I think it's not the intention isn't to make the other person laugh. The intention is just it's love, and you just want to enjoy the moment. So Lewis and I did a show called Scatoony, which we did for years, where it started out as a little interstitial on Cartoon Network, which was literally to just go, and coming up next, it was a little chipmunk kind of voice. And I gave it this voice, hey, how you doing? And Lewis was like the Earl, like, yeah, all he said was, yeah. And then it went into a 15-minute show. And then it became a Saturday morning, 4 hours live on Cartoon Network.
4 hours
live with live animation with this piece of kit called Kadara. So I was in the booth and I would be voicing, and this piece of computer equipment would sync the lips to my voice live, and someone would control the hands, the legs.
Holy shit!
Like
wow.
had like 10 or 11 or 12 things to do, and then the lips would know how to open and close, and that went out. So I'd be giving prizes to kids, and I'd call them at 7 a.m, at home, and
What'd you have for breakfast? Hey, would you like to win a truck full of toys?
oh yeah, Chad, I'd love to. And then that became a game show. It was the first live action animated game show. So basically you had 6 real children in squares, like University Challenge.
Yeah.
Sorry, 3 real children with 3 cartoon characters. Who were the other contestants?
Right.
And then Chud and the Earl were the presenters, and Lewis and I would go into the studio in London and we'd record these scripts of and we would just have so much fun together because we'd go off script, we'd improvise, we'd come up with stuff, we'd riff, and it's the best. It's absolutely the best feeling when you're working with someone who A, that you love, and B, you really respect and you admire all at the same time. And the feeling's mutual. You just want each other's work to be the best. So it's not about making the other person laugh in terms of tripping them up. It's about making the other person
bring out their best.
And if you're both doing it, it lifts everything. And Scatoony was a real highlight for me as a voice actor, because Lewis and I got to work together, and we're like two kids playing. It was just fantastic.
It's like when you see those behind-the-scenes tapes of Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
That's
like
it.
doing
That's
Derek and Clark. It's like, what's the worst bloody job you ever had?
I'll take your lobsters out of Jane Mansfield's ass. Oh, yeah.
I used to wipe at the post bogies. That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. It's that. It's except they did it at midnight. Well, after having had a few. More than a few. I think they probably bought the pub. But yes, no, we were stone cold sober. But yes, well, maybe we weren't.
Well, you're a wine drinker, so
yes.
Let's segue into
Is that like your default to you finish a job, you'll go for wine?
No. I like wine with food.
Yeah.
And I'm all about wine and food matching. So before I moved to Australia, I did my wine exams.
So you're a sommelier?
I could be, yes. I could
You're
get a job.
You're not quite sure?
No, I could get a job. I'm qualified. I know enough about wine to get a job as a sommelier. It's just that I've got the shake, so I'd be like... So I think I'd be spilling, Petrus all over somebody's, white
But you've got a collection, don't you?
Yeah, I love wine. I collect wine. I buy it. I sell it. I invest in it. I drink it.
So what is the wine collection like? Is it like you can't drink it? You have to have it there on display? Or
no, it's not on display. No, it's in. I have a Eurocab at home, which is a wine fridge, which is in the same room as my studio.
It's got to be
keep the
appropriate.
important things together.
After a really heavy session of just like a terrible book, it's just...
Yeah, that's it. And then I have wine in storage at Wine Arc in Chatswood, and then I have some wine in London as well.
So it's quite diversified.
Yes, yeah. Well, I as I say, I like wine to go with food. So I mean, I've met a lot of people here in Australia, and they go, "Nah, just drink Shiraz, mate." And I'm like, "Nothing else? Nah, just Shiraz." Or just drink Penfolds. And you go, okay, fine. And you go, have you tried a Viognier? Nah. Have you tried a, Côte d'Or? Have you tried a Rioja? Have you tried a Tempranillo? Have you tried a Barolo? No, nah. And it's quite interesting. So I really like, the thing is when you get into wine, you just keep diving.
It's a money pit.
It's a money pit, and it's that's why I sell a lot of wine. I'll buy 6 bottles of something because you have to buy it in a 6 because all my wine I bought in the UK and I shipped it all over here.
Okay.
But you had to buy a minimum of 6. Then I'd open a bottle and go, I don't think I like this. I think I'll sell the other 5.
Yeah.
So, or sell 3 and keep 2.
In case you find a meal that
in
it
case
goes
it
with.
ages better as well.
Yeah, in case it might age better, or in case I find a meal that might suit it better.
Have you found a wine that you like but you couldn't pair with a meal?
Oh, gosh. Have I found a wine I liked that I couldn't pair with a meal?
Somebody cue the Jeopardy music. Ben, you got that teed up?
No. I've found meals that are quite hard to pair with wine.
Meat pie?
Meat pie. Cup of tea, mate. I'll have a cup of builders any day of the week with a meat pie, mate. Yeah. No.
Did you just do the Cockney neck?
Yeah, of course you did, mate. Yeah, mate. Yeah, all right, sunshine. No, it's just fun. I love it. And all during lockdown, I learned how to make cocktails as well. I'd never drunk cocktails in my life. I've never been into spirits. And now I really am. I'm just like, I go on to Nick's or whatever, and I'm just going, I need green chartreuse, I need Dom Benedictine, I need, creme de cacao, I need, 6 different types of gin and 4 different types of rum and 3 different types of rye and 2 different types of cognac, and I'm going to mix them all together and make stuff and
Have
bitters.
you ever tried
loads
the
of different bitters,
Vespa with the cocktail?
The Vespa? Yes. I have not tried the Vespa yet. No, I haven't tried that one.
I'm a recent fan of coffee and cigars. The drink, which is Jameson's,
Yes.
Triple Sec, and Kahlua.
Ooh, Kahlua instead of Mr. Black's.
Haven't had Mr. Black's.
Because Mr. Black's is an Australian coffee liqueur.
Oh, shoot. All right.
Kahlua is the global one, and
Yeah.
Kalua's got sugar in it. So the Mr. Black's hasn't got any sugar in it. So what's it again? Triple Sec?
Triple Sec,
Yeah.
Jameson, or
Jameson.
any kind of whiskey for that matter. And just coffee liqueur.
And coffee liqueur. Try Mr. Black's.
Mr. Black's.
Because A, it's an Aussie brand, and it's also brilliant.
Okay.
But also it might make your cocktail a little less sweet. So you might need to put a little tiny bit of simple syrup in it. Just if you like the sweetness of Kahlua. But
Drinking tips with Pop.
drinking tips.
Well, it's that idea. Like Australians do a lot of shit really well. Like Archie Rose do some amazing
Great
work.
gins.
Yep, great
Yeah,
gins. The vodka is just
yeah,
flawless.
they do a rye, which is really good.
Yep, their single
Yeah.
malt's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's a problem my other half
Yeah.
knows I really enjoy their stuff. And now every time they do their trials and exceptions, I get a bottle and I go, because I don't drink as much, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is just going to sit here for a year. Yeah, well, I'll get to it.
But that's fine because a bottle of wine, if you open it, you got to drink it. Coravins are great. Have you got a Coravin? It's the needle.
Oh, that's the one
hollow
that
and
kind
you
of
put it
pierces
in.
through and then
Pierces
you can
the needle,
still...
replace it with argon, and then means you can tip out a little glass or something and go, that's not ready, and I'll put that back.
Far out.
I've had a bottle under Coravin now for 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, and
How long do you plan on keeping it?
Well, it's a bottle of Apera, which is like a Amontillado sherry.
Yeah.
Which I put every Christmas into eggnog. I make an amazing eggnog. And
We needed that last week.
Oh, it's terrific. Very good, very, very good. But this bottle of Apera I put under Coravin because I only wanted to use a little bit every year, and it's from Seppelsfield, and this bottle's lasted 3 years, and it's still fresh as a daisy.
Wow.
Whereas normally sherry would sort of go off after maybe 4 weeks, unless you keep it in the fridge, maybe 6 weeks in the fridge.
I can't
vermouth.
see anyone I know opening a bottle and having it last 4 hours, let alone 4 weeks.
Well, yeah, but wine maybe, but sherry is quite a distinctive taste. And Amontillado, it's a very sort of dry. You can really taste that sort of oxidation you get from the Solera and everything. The vermouth is a really important thing because I only learned this in the last 2 years because when I've been getting to drinks, but everybody keeps vermouth thinking it's a spirit. It's not a spirit. Vermouth will go off after 4 weeks unless you keep it in the fridge. And even if you keep it in the fridge, it'll be gone after 8 weeks.
Wow.
So your dry vermouth, your sweet vermouth, get them in the half bottles if you're making martinis, because that shit will go off, man. You want nothing worse than make a martini with some old vermouth because it will just go, ugh. So yeah, and people, no one knows this. You'd be so surprised. You go to anybody's house and they have their little drinks cabinet. There'll be a bottle of vermouth there. There'll be a bottle of Dolin or Noilly Prat or Cinzano, whatever you want to call it. And they bought that in 1978.
No, thank you.
My mother still has a bottle of vermouth from, I think, 1968. Sitting
she hasn't
on her
been listening.
drinks thing, and I'm like, she throw that out. She said, no, it looks nice and it's old. I'm like, okay.
I mean, as long as
Not
it's
gonna drink
only
it.
for aesthetic purposes.
Like empty bottles can be a wonderful aesthetic. It might show that you're an alcoholic.
It's full,
but,
never been cracked.
but
What's that? Maker's Mark
Oh.
46. Oh, hello. Right, we're gonna have.
I mean, we're all driving, but a single
Up
one.
for the camera
Up for the camera.
Oh,
Is this
look
we
at
allowed?
that.
and for my own eyes.
That's very nice. So are you guys into your booze then? I take it you are then.
I shouldn't. Be,
One
but-
of us more than the other. I'm a simple man of simple taste. I get some vodka and I put juice in it because I like my sugar.
Oh, that's
that and you'll
good.
die if you drink anything else.
I mean, there is a problem with that.
There's a great guy called Anders Eriksson. He's in Wisconsin. Does fantastic YouTube channel called.
I think that office
something with
seriously there if
Anders
you want
Eriksson.
one.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I might have a smell of it though. Oh shit! I've just pulled off the fucking wax. Oh yes.
Go
No. Maybe. Oh fuck it. Yes.
Well, it's not often that I'm
I feel
going
like
to be
Elon Musk with Joe Rogan. Come on,
And he's got the
let's have a
weed.
big fucking spliff. Ah, Christ.
The bottle doesn't get easier to open.
It certainly doesn't. Certainly partake. Thank you.
But so there's some great. Cara Devine has a great podcast called Behind the Bar. She's a Scottish lass who works out of Melbourne. She does a fantastic.
Actually, I think I have seen her.
Yeah, and she always ends each one with "So now you know," and she's really good. She makes fantastic cocktails. And Anders and the Educated Barfly, he's really good. And there's this English guy who's he's got a really cool bar with lots of skulls and candles and shit. And I can't remember his, but there's about 4 that I regularly watch, and then I kind of nick from them, and then I kind of mix and match and try and find my own. I like a Vieux Carré. I discovered a Vieux Carré recently in the last year, which is it's like, do you like a Manhattan? It's a New Orleans Manhattan. So it's equal parts sweet vermouth, cognac, and rye, and then with some Dom Benedictine, and then a double splash of Angostura bitters and a double splash of Peychaud's bitters, which is that New Orleans. And then lots of ice, nice bit of dilution, stir, and then you can just serve it up. And it's a bit of.
I feel like
orange.
you
It's
have to
beautiful.
be at a certain level of sober to be able to make these things. Because I think that's one of the advantages of just going for juice and vodka. I'm good.
This is a first, I've got to admit. I've never
Drunk whiskey out of a paper cup.
Out of a paper cup.
I mean, I don't even like coffee out of a fucking paper cup.
I know.
So,
This is going to be a weird
I'm
experience.
that
Here's
much
to
of
it.
a snob, but this is... Oh, you're not having any, I take it.
No, not for me.
Wombat.
Papery.
I think that was God. It was literally, I thought it was going to fly off, but...
The bottle was about to go for those on the audio.
You have those moments in slow-mo a lot in life, but you made a documentary about wine.
I produced a documentary about wine. Yes, I did. I didn't make it. It was a documentary about natural wine.
Okay.
And I didn't produce it. No, that's not fair. That's absolutely incorrect.
IMBD says producer.
Okay.
Does it?
You can't argue with IMDb.
What's the thing called?
We're gonna have to get it back up.
Because I did two things with wine in the title.
Let me get your.
Is it 100 bottles of wine?
I think 300 bottles of wine.
Okay, 600 bottles of wine. 600. So 600.
I love how it went from 100, 300,
600.
1,000.
Yeah, so 600 bottles of wine isn't a documentary about wine. 600 bottles of wine is a 10-part drama comedy series written and produced and directed by my good friend Grace Rouvray and her team, and I can't remember the other two.
600 bottles, executive producer.
And I was executive producer on it, which was a very kind way of saying that I gave them some money. And which was, because I love her and she's terrific and she's made this amazing series and they did it all on a very low budget. And
it had the word wine in the title.
And it was brilliant. It's all set in Redfern. It's about a bunch of girls that live in Redfern. It's all about their relationships and their love lives and about what it's like being in your 20s, living in Sydney, in modern Sydney. And they made it just before COVID. And
that's pretty cool.
They're so talented, these guys. One of them starred in it. One of them wrote it. The other directed it. And they sold it to the BBC and Netflix.
Incredible.
And
Nice.
They've done really well. And so, so that was...
Intern, so have you?
And they very kindly gave me an executive producer credit. But I did also finance a documentary about wine, about natural wine, which was a few years ago in
That wasn't Last
America.
Orders, was it?
No, Last Orders was a short film that I produced with David Heyman and Adrian Dunbar about two guys sitting in a pub. Everything I do seems to be set in a pub. I don't know
It's very My Dinner with Andre.
It's like I've made a film set in a pub.
Bob the Builder wasn't set in a pub.
No, well, we've recorded it in a pub. No.
That's Bob the Builder. The day's end where it's just like Bob comes in.
Normally we ended up in the pub, especially with the people who were on the show because we all loved our beer and wine.
But on Bob the Builder, you were the only cast member, as far as I can tell, who did both the UK and the US version of the show. How did that come about?
I think there were. So I lived in America when I was a kid. I've been speaking with an American accent since I was 6 years old. And I was a member of the North American Actors Registry of Equity in the UK, and a lot of my voiceover work was American in London. And so I was doing Bob the Builder, and they said, look, my friend who did the Jim Carrey quote, Bill DeFries, he was the voice of Bob the Builder in America. And it was Bill who actually introduced me to the producers to be in Bob the Builder. And they immediately thought to be in the American version. And when they realized that I was English, they said, well, you do the English version. And then it was sort of like I ended up doing both.
Because when I went through all the credits, you were going through Bob the Builder, you're the only one with UK and US credit.
Yeah. So Scrambler, how did he sound?
Scram to the valley, yeah. It rocks. Hello, Bob.
And so all I had to do was basically go,
Scram to the valley. Hey, Bob, you rock.
and it was just literally doing the same stuff in an American accent. But then Muck was a character in Bob the Builder voiced by Rob Rackstraw, and Muck would always go,
Let's get mucky.
but in America it was,
Let's get muddy.
and they had someone else voice it. So someone goes, let's get muddy. And I'm like, it was just weird. Like Gripper and Grabber, which Rob and I did, we made just the Scouse skits from Harry Enfield. All right, mate. Easy, mate. How's it going, mate? All good, mate. And we played, and we just ripped off Harry Enfield and Paul Whitehouse going, hey, mate, all right, gripper, grabber, and grabber. And then when I went and did the American version, it was, we're like them Southern rednecks. Hi, Gripper. Hi, Grab. And, and it was just like...
What does that say about us Scousers?
I know. It's just like redoing it all again but changing the odd like word. Thomas, the tank engine, for example, which I did for a few years, Thomas and Friends, the fat controller is called the fat controller. But in America, fat might trigger people with weight issues. So it's a Topham Hat.
What?
Because he's got a top hat. So he's Sir Topham Hat.
I've never heard that.
Because the fat controller is, to an American audience, is considered possibly offensive. Don't get me started.
We won't, don't worry.
So we had to again with the Thomas as well. I did the
UK
British
and US
version of Thomas as well. Yeah, which is fun.
A random question, because I know there's a couple in Star Wars from an actor whose name I should not be forgetting, but he voiced Darth Maul.
Yes, Peter Serafinowicz.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, sorry, for the animated series.
No idea.
One of my favorite actors, and I'm just blanking on him. But do you have like any inside jokes you've put into roles that no one has picked up?
The first thing that comes to my head is I used to do a lot of ADR, a lot of automatic dialogue replacement, a lot of dubbing, crowd work, sort of crowd session stuff. For years, 8 or 10 of us would congregate behind microphones. And so, you can hear my voice in GoldenEye and 12 Monkeys and Bridget Jones and so many films. I mean, done hundreds of movies where even now I'll be watching it and go, oh, that was me. Just going, walk on. I still get checks for Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth and Jennifer Ailey, which was back in 1995.
Oh my God.
I still get checks for like £16.72p or £1.84 from a DVD sale to the Ukraine or something, or, something like that. It was so weird.
Because residuals used to be so different.
Yeah, and it all goes, I still get, probably 30 quid a year for, I had one the other day for 65 pence.
Oh, that's the lowest.
Literally a check with a perforated.
It would have cost more to
send to Australia 60 for Touch of Frost, because I was in one episode of Touch of Frost and they did some kind of Denmark video on demand.
Yeah, a number of stunt films.
I was in one scene. I had like 2 fucking lines. Yeah. 65p, but really? Yeah. Really? Anyway, so it was just crazy. So we're doing this dubbing session on can't remember what it was, but it was a Dickens. It was some BBC Dickens thing. Yeah. And we're all behind the mic, and it's a scene in a tavern. And we're just the crowd in the background. And because we're wanting to amuse ourselves, we were like, oi, Oliver, get your twist around here, mate. Yeah. Got a tale for you, Tale of Two Cities. Where's David? Oh, David's having a Copperfield. That house is a bit bleak, isn't it? Yeah, so, and Charles DeWitt. What, Martin Charles DeWitt. Yeah, I know Martin. And we started listing, he's got great expectations. And we just started. So if you listen very carefully, you might hear a bunch of people in the pub listing Dickens titles.
Just in conversation. That's brilliant.
That's the first one that came to mind. I suppose you could only really get away with stuff like that with the dubbing because it's just background stuff. Whereas, like doing the Star Wars video games, like when we did Empire at War, I think I've done three or four Star Wars video games. Empire at War, I think Knights of the Old Republic, something else. Literally, they are. Excuse me, it's making me burp.
That's the paper.
Yeah, it's good. It's very precise. You get your script, and it's like jumps off a 6-foot wall, jumps off a 12-foot wall, jumps off a 20-foot wall. Lands from a 6-foot wall, lands from a gets punched in the stomach, gets slapped in the stomach, gets winded in the stomach. So you're going. And then, and you do this for hours. His finger gets blown off, his hand gets blown off, his arm gets blown off. It's feel like the knight in
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay, that's right. Come on, go with the other one. Still got me, still walking her. And you get these things for video games, and you go. And I said to this producer once, I said, why don't you just make a library of all of these, right? Pay us like some kind of royalty, some kind of usage fee, so we don't have to keep coming back and wrecking our voices doing this, which is utterly boring as batshit. Going, you know, and you go, he's going, well, we're paying you. I'm like, after 2 hours of this, and then you got to go off and do a commercial, and you go, I'm so sorry, I've lost my voice. So you got to protect your voice. That's why I said, if you want me to go, motherfuckers, for 2 hours, can we just make a little library of sound effects and just call them? And of course, now that's really happening. But now they're not even going to pay people. It's like we can sort of deep fake your whatever, and so the whole thing's fucked, man.
Completely and utterly fucked. Well, because
we're all going to be out of a job soon.
One of your first dubbing jobs was an anime, wasn't it? Like back.
It was.
Like, because
my God, you have done your research.
A little bit. It's like
yes,
because I'm an anime fan.
Yes,
and like
Urotsukidoji, Legend of the Overfiend. My favorite line in anime was, "Let's give those motherfuckers a taste of nuclear shit."
And like you go and you like, especially back in the 80s and the 90s when they weren't quite exact with the dubs, you go online, and one of my favorites is Lupin the Third, and you go to the American dubs of these, and there's some really obscure shit. It's like, let's get chicken nuggets, and you go, where does this come from?
I've no idea. It's like, yes, exactly. Or the sort of all the private parts are all blurred out.
Yep.
Oh my God, they're going to see the lot.
And I'm dubbing this thing in some basement in St. Anne's Court in Soho, circa 1994 or whatever. You know, going, wow, I like this. This is fun. I did a thing called Keku Kamen, and there was a gym teacher. So I made him like Annie, and this sort of, I'm your gym teacher. You come. Then the second part of Keku Kamen was when I brought in Alec Guinness. He was a samurai, and he was the samurai warrior who was sort of, he had the robes on, and he had the samurai sword, and your father's lightsaber. And it was those anime things were great.
They're known for, like, especially what's called shonen, is there's a lot of screaming involved. And these people will do they will only be able to do like 45-minute blocks and have to stop for 3 hours.
Wrecks your voice.
It's insane.
It's absolutely, yes, absolutely. I lost the very first thing one of the first things I dubbed was a film called Stalingrad. Oh. And I was trying to impress the director. It was the English dub of this movie that came out, I think, in 93, 94. Yeah. Brilliant film, by the way. It's a German film made by, I think, Film Constantine. And it's a really, really brilliant film, and it's got on the Russian front. And I was 24, and I wanted to impress the director, such an idiot. And
been there.
So I'm like, I'll do that one. I'll do that. And I volunteered for every death scene, every, I will get you where you're going. And then I wrecked my voice, and I learned a very valuable lesson.
I learned a similar lesson, but on live productions.
Yes.
I've had a few where it's just like, all right, and now we're just going to brutally murder you. And I've learned to be like, okay, you get 2 takes.
You get 2 takes?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I did 3, thinking 3 is probably a good limit, and then the next day just sent a text like, I can't talk. How much of my dialogue do you need today?
Absolutely. I did an animation series called Chop Socky Chooks, and I played this villain, Bubba, who was this Dr. Wasabi, played by Paul Kay.
He was sort of, this little fish in a bowl, and he had this sort of German professor thing.
And I was Bubba, was this big gorilla, Oh, what are you doing?
And this scene was like 2 pages long, and it was Bubba dives through a plate glass window, Bubba swings on this, and Bubba, and I'm going, scene and I'm seeing stars. My veins are up. I'm sweating. When you bang your head and you start seeing.
Yeah.
And I was seeing flickery stars, and I'm out of breath. I'm giving everything, and then the director leans in to talk back and goes, okay, good. So on page 2, line 14, it said he jumped 40 feet. It sounded a bit like 20 feet. Can we? And I said, can we? And I said, can we do it as a? Oh fuck! Can we do it as a drop in? And he went, and I'm looking through the glass and going, you know, could we do another take? And I said, I'm not a Pro Tools plugin. And he said, do you think you've got one more in you? It'll be the last, I promise. And I'm like, can I just have a glass of water? And I did it again. And I thought it wasn't as good as the first take. And I went, I'm not doing another one. I said, I'm not doing another one. I said, the last one, right? That was the last one. Yes, it's promise. So you just, oh, fuck, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
Is there any roles that you'd ever want to revisit? I mean, obviously, you know, there's a long gap between when it comes to like The Doors of Stone, but are there things that you've had so much passion about? You're like, fuck, I want to go for another run. I want to give more to that.
Return to Bob the Builder.
You know, it's funny you ask that, but I did a play called Stones in His Pockets in the West End of London, and I was in it for coming on for 2 years, doing 8 shows a week. I think I did somewhere in the region of 600 performances. And if you told me I was going to do that play again, I would jump at it.
Really? Loved it.
Yeah. It was a two-hander.
Oh, yeah.
Who were you playing with?
I
Phrasing?
I played with 2 guys. I spent the first 6 months, 6 to 9 months with an Irish actor called Brian Doherty, and then the second batch with my good friend Hugh Lee. And it was one of those things where, I don't know if you've heard of Stones in His Pockets. It was written by Mari Jones. She played Jerry Conlon's mother in The Name of the Father. Her husband, Ian McElhinney, who plays the granddad in Derry Girls, you know,
Yes,
watch Derry
it's
Girls.
fantastic.
So he's like there. He's the guy with the white beard who's like, oh,
You're an absolute gobshite, Joe.
He's got always has the hat and the white beard. Anyway, so he was our director, and I went to see Stones in His Pockets at the Tricycle Theatre in Kilburn with Conleth Hill, who's from Game of Thrones, I believe. Irish guy, bald, big.
Yes.
Don't know. He put on all that weight for Stones. And it's about 2 young guys who meet on a film set, 2 guys who meet in a film set in Ireland, on a Hollywood film shooting in Ireland. And one of them's working in a video shop, and he fancies himself as a filmmaker and meets this other guy, Jake, and Charlie. And they meet on this Hollywood film, and it's all about how the Hollywood movies disrupts local communities, and how all the local communities love Hollywood, and Hollywood leave all their shit and fuck off. And the 2 actors play all the parts. It's you play all 20 characters in the play, and at the end of the first act, one of these kids won't get an autograph from the movie star, and he walks into the river with stones in his pockets and he kills himself. And it turns they have a funeral, and the producers won't let everyone have the day off for the funeral, and it's a brilliant play. So I called the casting director when I knew that there was going to be a cast change, and I phoned up the casting director and said I wanted to be in it, and she said, you don't sound Irish. And I said, no, I'm not Irish. She said, oh, you have to be Irish to be in this play. And I said, I can do the accent. She said, no. So I waited a few months, had a cast change, and then there was going to be another cast change. It was in the West End by this point. It was a huge hit. It won all the Olivier Awards, and Conleth and Sean went off to Broadway. They won the Tony Awards, and it was so good. And so I phoned up the casting director again, and I said, look, I'd like to audition for this play. And I basically doctored my CV, and I made out that I was from Ireland, and I changed my answering machine message on my mobile and my landline, saying this is Rupert here.
Covering all your bases.
Covered all the bases. And she said, oh, great. Do you want to come in for an audition at the American Church in Tonopah Road? I went, yeah. I shot there's Ian McElhinney, and he's like, hey, Rupert, hey, good to meet you, mate. How you doing? And I'm like, hi. He says, where are you from? Now, I just looked up in the... I've told this story before, so it's not like I'm giving it away.
Yeah.
But I looked up in the Rough Guide of Ireland. I thought, I've got to find out where I'm from. What's my backstory?
Yeah.
So I found a town in Donegal called Muff, and I thought that was quite funny because, they get the crack, get it? And there was a comedy festival, and all it said about Muff was well known for its comedy festival, the banana comedy or something like that.
Yeah.
That's all it said. So I go in and doing Charlie, he's from Londonderry, Donegal. He's from the top, he's from Derry, or I think he's from Donegal, but he's from the north. And he's like, talks like that and everything. And then he said, okay, now let's hear your Simon. Simon's dub 4. So suddenly it became like, Bob Geldof or Bono, it suddenly went into that. And then, the Scottish guy who's the security guard, the big, Glaswegian chap. And then the American movie star was, oh my God, it was sort of like Renee Zellweger or, whoever.
Someone.
Someone. Yeah. Julia Roberts, whatever. And then the old director, the English director, and I started doing all these voices, and he's like, "Oh, you're very good at voices." And he said, "Can you hang around? I want you to read opposite another actor." And I'm thinking, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." So and I was there, 6 or 7 people all in the room, real Irish actors, and I'm just cacking my fucking pants. I'm like, I'm all in. I'm like, you got it. There's no faking this, right? Or, I mean, well, yes.
Well, apparently there is.
It's full method.
It's full. You're all in. You can't give yourself. You can't show sweat yet. I mean, this is like Serpico undercover, right? So I'm like, okay, fuck Pacino. I'm gonna go undercover, right? So I'm there, and then he says, we're standing in the corner. He goes, "So where are you from?" And I said, and I literally, I could just feel myself go. You could have warmed your hands on my face. And I went, I'm from Muff. He said, "I know Muff very well." He said, "Have you performed it?" I said, "Banana Comedy. Yeah, I've performed there a couple of times." He said, "Grand." I said, "Who did you?" And then so it was like, "We're ready to come back." And so I went and read it again. And then I got a call saying I'd got the part, and they wanted me to sign a 6-month contract in the West End. And I was like, fucking, because it was my dream to be in the West End. That was my dream as a kid, was to be in the West End stage and to have my picture in the big cabinets outside in the street and have my name up on the board in Soho. And it was just like my fantasy come true, that and being in Star Wars, and that one happened. And
I mean, you've been in Star Wars material.
Yeah, in a way now you have.
Yeah. But it was so, on the first day of rehearsal, we went around the room, said, "What's your name? Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm Rupert and I'm from London." And I said it in my English accent. And Ian went, he said, "Mate, if you can convince me, you can convince them." He said, "Good on you." He said, "This is what actors need to do. This is what actors need to do." And I ended up being in the show for 2 years.
Wow.
And played in Ireland as well, played in Belfast, played in Dublin. And nobody cared. They were just looking at a performance of someone who could pull it off, as opposed to now you'd probably, no, it's cultural appropriation, you're English, you can't play Irish. I mean, hope they wouldn't do that. But in answer to your question, it was such an amazing experience every night going out in front of 500, 600, some in Belfast and Dublin, it was 1,000, 1,200 seater theatres, and performing Mari's play with Ian's direction and playing all these characters and using sort of dance and movement to change characters. No costume changes. And literally we're talking about it's how you hold your body. So each character had its own kind of thing. So Simon had his hands in his pockets, on his hands in his hips. Charlie's had his hands in his pockets. Clem had his trousers up here. Caroline was always playing with her ear. Old Mickey was, and so you'd move your body, and every moment when you're acting in front of the audience is telling you if what you're doing is right. Like theater is an actor's medium, film is a director's medium, right?
Yeah.
Film is not an actor's medium. Theater is an actor's medium, because when that show starts and you're on that stage and you've got an audience, you're the editor, you're the sound designer, you're the cinematographer. You are in control. It's up to you if you're going to be in the light or not. And that's why for me, my first love is theater. And again, long answer to your question, but the one I would love to revisit is that play, because it's theater, which is my absolute joy as an actor. It's where I'm at my most free, but also it's that particular play. Every night I'd get new laughs or new moments, or you'd find new bits. And I remember coming off stage one night with you and I just said, I think we've just done the perfect show. David Suchet, the actor who played Poirot. Do you remember David Suchet, English actor?
Oh, Hercule Poirot in
the series, in the TV series.
Yeah.
He always has a bottle of fine Bordeaux in his dressing room. He's had it for 40 years. And people always say, "What's the wine?" He says, "I will open it when I give the perfect performance."
Did you go out and get one?
No, but there was another one. Ralph Richardson, before he died, years before he died, he was running around the theatre going, "I've lost this box. It's a very important box. It's a wooden box. It's got mother of pearl in it. I need it." And everyone is frantically running around the theatre trying to find this box. And they're going, well, what's... So I need this box. I need this box. I can't go on stage without this box. What's in the box? My talent is in the box. He was that nervous. He was just having a bit of a...
He just imbued this box.
He imbued this, and he lost it. And it was just this token. It was a totem like David Suchet's bottle of wine. It was just this thing of, if that bottle of wine is in my dressing room, if I open it, I'm done. Because you can never be 100% happy. So I would want to do that play again because I think there's
even though you thought it was perfect before, you want to do it better.
Yeah, I'm 20 years older now. And I'm 20 years more mature. I'm 20 years more emotionally intelligent. I've got 20 years more experience. I have 20 years worth more of characters. My voice has improved. I think if I did it now, it would be even better than it was 20 years ago because I've got that much more to give it. So that's what I would love to do again, but I will never get to do it again. So it's never going to happen, but I would love it to do it.
I want to finish with one final question, but unlike the rest of them, this one might actually have a correct and an incorrect answer. Just curiously, the earliest credit I could find for your work was 1985/1986. Do you remember what production you recorded and who or what you played?
Oh my God.
I think we established this right at the start. You're screwed.
1985, 86. Was it a TV thing? Was it The Great Writers, Virginia Woolf, The Waves? No. Was it Held the Back Page, uncredited?
Yes.
Uncredited Schoolboy, Held the Back Page.
Nailed it.
They came to film in my school.
Oh, wow.
And David Warner was I did the scene with David Warner, and years later I did a radio series with David Warner called The Brighton. David, who we lost as well a few months ago. He very sadly, David was a gentleman, lovely, beautiful man. We did the Brightonomicon, which, check it out, it's fantastic. Based on the novel by Robert Rankin. It's all set in Brighton, and it's very fantastical and black magic and dark and comedic. And I play a guy that is saved from a drowning and comes back to life, and he enters into the world of the occult in Brighton. And David Warner is Hugo Rune, and again I executive produced that one as well. It's really good. The Brightonomicon, available on Audible. Also listen to Grover's Mill if you haven't heard it. It's a series that I co-wrote with my friend Matt Keon and Amy Horn. Do you know Amy Horn? She's brilliant. She's a voiceover actress here in Australia. She and I played all the characters. And then I also directed it and produced it. And my friend Matt Sladen did all the music and sound design. So a team of 4. And we did 8 half-hour episodes it's about a forensic psychic detective called Wilkie Poe, who gets involved in a missing persons case and ends up finding evidence from Orson Welles that the moon landings were faked.
That sounds amazing.
That's a ride.
It's called Grover's Mill because that's where they landed in Orson Welles' 1930s. And that Orson Welles is one of my heroes. Do you want
to give us an Orson Welles to send us off?
Orson Welles, a remote farm in Lincolnshire where Mrs. Buckley lives. God, this is a piece of shit, you know that. You find me a jury of 12 men to say in July and I'll go down on you. This is preposterous. No.
Rupert Degas.
Orson Welles.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very
it has
much
been an
indeed.
absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.